I got a standing desk. I'm pretty happy about it. So a while back, I did a video about how Robert Eggers' adaptation of Nosferatu was my most hyped film of 2024, and at about 10 o'clock at night on Christmas Day, because I'm a little bit of a freak, I went to go see Nosferatu at my local theater. And to kind of immediately out of the way answer the question of did the film live up to all of the hype, I just want to come right out and say, yes, it not only lived up to the hype that I set up for myself, but it also exceeded all of the expectations that I had set as well. I've seen the film twice now, and I'm probably going to sneak off after I'm done editing this video and see it for a third time, so I just want to go ahead and get all of my thoughts out. I apologize for how disorganized this video is. I'm going to have a spoiler section for when I talk about spoilers. This first bit is just going to be what I think about the film, raw, just off the top of my head, completely. So as I mentioned in the first video I did on this, I am a big fan of the original F.W. Murnau 1922 Nosferatu German expressionist horror film. It's one of my favorite films of all time because it perfectly represents that era of filmmaking where for the first time filmmakers were really doing something that wasn't completely real. They weren't trying to capture reality. They were using expressionism to explore the sanity of the characters and to manifest horrors of the real world into this creature, this terrifying rat-like interpretation of a vampire, which of course, as many of you know now, because not only from the advertising of the film, but what I brought up in my last video, Nosferatu is essentially an adaptation of Dracula that was unauthorized. It was not legally made with the approval of the Stoker estate. And at the end of Eggers' film, the credits do show that this film is not only based upon Nosferatu, but it is also an adaptation of Bram Stoker's Dracula. And I think it works very well as both. It is a loving tribute with a lot of care to the 1920s film, and also a very great adaptation of Dracula at the same time. Robert Eggers is kind of on a perfect streak right now. All four of his films, I think, are excellent in their own way. My favorite film of his is still The Lighthouse because of how completely original and unique that film is. I've never had an experience in a theater quite like The Lighthouse. Nosferatu, however, is, I think, a close second. It satisfied this craving that I've had for a long time for more gothic horror. Rooms that are entirely lit by candle, natural lighting, big spooky castle sets, crypts, graveyards. It has all of those things that I've wanted out of horror, especially in the mainstream, for a very long time, that I feel like we haven't gotten, partially because, at least in terms of the vampire myth, vampires have kind of become something far removed from what they originally were. And I kind of understand that evolution, I want to say. Like, I get why a lot of vampires nowadays are made very attractive and seductive because that is part of their lore. They are seductive creatures of the night that seduce men and women in order to feast on their blood. This film, however, goes back to a part of the vampire mythos from the era when people actually thought they were real, that they are essentially zombies, undead creatures that bring the plague, that bring death. They are more forces of nature than they are cursed creatures with personalities. That isn't to say that the titular vampire Nosferatu or Count Orlok is without personality, however. I guess the first point I want to address in this video is the performances in this film from everyone are outstanding. Robert Eggers is just one of those directors that's able to get great performances out of his actors. He's able to get them to completely remove any ego or concern about their appearance that a lot of actors seem to have now. They are not afraid to go for it when working for him, and everyone in this film goes for that extra level. When someone in this film is going crazy, you buy that they're going crazy. When someone's in pain, you feel it. And when they're terrified, you absolutely share that terror with them as an audience. As more reviews of this film come out and more people go see it, I think the biggest praise for the performances in the film is going to be reserved for Lily Rose Depp. Something that I think she really needed after that terrible HBO series The Idol came out. She is a great actress and she is amazing in this film. The film really rests on her shoulders, as the character of Ellen in the original film, without spoiling anything, is the sort of major protagonist of that film toward the later half. This film expands her character into being the overarching protagonist for the entire story. The things that happen in this film are a direct result from her actions. Speaking of the things that happen, I think it's important to talk about Bill Skarsgård as Count Orlok. Skarsgård in this movie is kind of cementing himself as the new monster performer of our age, with both Count Orlok and his role as Pennywise in the It films. He just really likes to wear prosthetics and change his voice and appearance and become a creature of the night, and his performance as Count Orlok in this film is incredible. Like, no notes, I think he did a flawless job in portraying this character. I don't want to give anything away until the spoiler section, but his look, his appearance, his style, everything about him is so unique and also historically accurate at the same time as to what people felt vampires were like at that time period. Before I wrap up the performances, I do also want to talk about how great Willem Dafoe is in this film. Of course, he's great in everything. He's kind of my man crush. But the three other performances in this film that I think work expertly are Nicholas Hoult as Thomas, his best friend, played by Aaron Taylor-Johnson, and Dr. Severs, played by Ralph Ineson, who worked with Robert Eggers previously on The Witch. All of these characters play off of each other very, very well, and also do very well in their own individual scenes. Like, when Nicholas Hoult first sees Count Orlok in this film, part of the reason why it's so effective for the audience, and it was for me, is because of how scared Nicholas Hoult looked in that scene. He's excellent in this, and so is everyone else. Director and writer Robert Eggers' desire for historical authenticity extends not only to the incredible cinematography, sets, costumes, and all those other things, but the dialogue as well. Every character speaks using phrases and terms from the time period, and I noticed that the older characters in the film, Orlok and also Professor von Franz, played by Willem Dafoe, speak in a much more antiquated dialect than the younger characters in the film, using more outdated terms than even they did. I just appreciate the authenticity and the lengths that Eggers goes to achieve that authenticity. This is a very, very, very dark movie. It's a film about people conjuring evil, not only from the occult and from places beyond their understanding, but also the darkness and evil that may lie within every single one of us, defying our rationality that we feel that we can hide behind in our modern age. The film takes place in 1838, yet there are characters in it like Dr. Severs, played by Ralph Ineson, believe that they're more learned than everyone else, more intelligent, denying everything that is beyond rationality as mere fantasy and antiquated, while at the same time looking at the film from our modern lens, they're using things like opiates and basically drugging people with very dangerous things to take care of their medical problems, tying people to beds and making them wear tight corsets while suffering from melancholy. It's a theme that's carried over from the very first of Eggers' films to now. This idea that we are not as rational as we believe that we are. That while it is important to free ourselves from antiquated ideas and be more modern, we also have to acknowledge that there are things beyond our understanding. To confront evil, we must first acknowledge that it does exist. That's a quote that Willem Dafoe says in this film. For lack of a better term, this is also a very horny movie. The sexual desires of nearly all of our protagonists are a major theme in this film. Specifically, the main character, Ellen, looks inward into herself and has to question whether or not this dark urge that she feels physically, sexually, is something that she really wants and isn't just some madness in herself that she has to have treated. There's a theme of longing in this film, longing for characters like Thomas and Ellen who truly love each other, and lust as well, an evil, angry longing from the character of Orlok to Ellen, who is sort of his main victim in this story. I think that's actually a pretty good transition into the spoiler section of this video, because to further expand on those themes, I do want to talk about things that happen toward the climax of the film, and also talk about some of the finer details that haven't been revealed in the trailers yet. So overall, if you want to stop the video here, I highly recommend this film. It's very weird, it's very strange, it's a little freaky, but it is great if you are someone who loves that kind of story, who loves this kind of gothic, horrific, sexual storytelling, and also loves historically accurate vampire stories. If you're a fan of Robert Eggers, or if you're just a fan of this kind of story, I highly recommend you check out Nosferatu. So a few things to address with the spoiler section of this video. Again, I'm going to be kind of sporadic and kind of all over the place because I have a couple things that I want to get out of the way. Some things that I think will be controversial to some, but I think actually work for me. Number one, the design of Count Orlok, the way he is physically portrayed in this film. Count Orlok in the original film has a very iconic, disturbing, rat-like appearance that's known to many, partially because of just how long it's survived in pop culture, and also mostly because of SpongeBob, let's be honest. Actually, for Christmas, my parents got me this little figure of Orlok. Let me grab it real quick. I love him, he's so cool. Look at him, he's so spooky. I don't know if he's gonna focus, but yeah. Anyway, this isn't what he looks like in the movie. They made a choice in the design of the character that I think some will be kind of put off by, but I for one thought worked very well. I like the idea that I went in with certain expectations for what he was going to look like and was surprised that he didn't look like that. Interestingly enough, even though Nosferatu is based on an unauthorized, illegal version of Dracula, the look of Count Orlok in this film is the most accurate I think we could have gotten to how I imagined Dracula looked in the book when I read the novel, mustache and all. Yes, Count Orlok has a mustache. Many of you know this already if you've seen the film, or for some reason if you're watching the spoiler section, they gave him a mustache, and I'm gonna be honest, I'm gonna put my foot down. I like the mustache. I am a fan of the mustache. I think it looks awesome. Many people, I think, will be put off by the mustache and think it's a little strange. For some reason, I don't quite get why. I think it's mostly, again, because we have an idea of what Count Orlok should look like and Dracula should look like. And while Dracula is portrayed as having facial hair in the original novel, the adaptations of him usually don't, at least not in the scenes when we go meet him at the castle, probably because of how iconic Bela Lugosi is, and even if you're a fan of the 1990s Coppola Dracula, of which I am a fan as well, Gary Oldman's Dracula in that film looked a bit odd too. No facial hair, but like these weird hairy hands and this huge beehive looking head that I also really liked. So I guess I'm just a fan of weird interpretations of this character, and this is without a doubt a strange new interpretation of him. But at the same time, it's also historically accurate, something I've brought up before. Transylvanian noblemen did look like this. Robert Eggers did his research. They had that facial hair, the coat that he wears, the hat, all of that is accurate to what people of that time looked like. And also, one of the cooler moments while I was watching the film, I realized what he was doing and I was really happy about it. It dawned on me that Count Orlok looks like Vlad Dracula, the real Dracula that shares the name with the character in the novel. So in a way, again, even though this isn't technically an adaptation of Dracula, it's a remake of Nosferatu, it's more accurate to Dracula than most films that are made about Dracula. So yeah, I love the way he looks and I love the way that he sounds. I think Bill Skarsgård did a great job. His voice is super deep and gravelly. Apparently he worked with some sort of opera singer to help him get his voice into that lower register, that deep growly register. I saw this 2 times in a Dolby Cinema, which has really good sound. If you can see it in that kind of theater, I recommend doing it, specifically for his voice, because it quite literally shook the theater while he was speaking. I think it was fantastic. Where this film really sets itself apart from the original and expands on the original is in the character of Ellen, in her agency in the story. In the original film, Ellen essentially finds out that the only way to defeat a vampire is to offer herself up to have him suck her blood and be distracted by the taste of her blood and the desire for it until the sun comes up, where he is extinguished by the sun. And that is essentially what happens in the remake. However, the reason for it is slightly different. It's essentially established in this film that Ellen was suffering from depression and also seems to have been born with this ability, this clairvoyant ability to contact spirits from beyond, but she didn't even know that. She was young and lonely and depressed, and she reached out into the darkness through prayer, hoping that any spirit would provide her some kind of comfort, and unknowingly, she summoned the spirit of Count Orlok from rest. She describes it as originally feeling like bliss, but then becoming terrifying, and the only thing that was able to bring her out of that terror was Thomas, her new love. And it makes their relationship much stronger, that he wants to get back home to help her, and she's terrified for him to leave. It also helps to establish Count Orlok as not only a force of nature, but also a sexual predator, a creature that essentially groomed this young woman, coming to her when she was vulnerable and looking for friendship and taking from her, which in turn makes her sacrifice at the end of the story that much more powerful, in my opinion. Many people will think it's a bit odd that this film portrays the sucking of blood and the feasting on people as a sort of sexual act, almost like an assault, but in my opinion, this is in line with the original lore of vampires. This sexual terror that these creatures bring is part of their original lore, and a lot of gothic horror stories have this tie to femininity, this desire for something more extreme than the confines of the male-dominated world will allow. Again, I'm kind of scatterbrained in my analysis here. I am thinking about at some point doing a full analysis of the film. If you're interested in that, please let me know. But this film has had me thinking non-stop since I saw it, and that's a sign of a film that's going to stick with me, and a film that I love. I love this movie. I recommend it to everyone, even if this is kind of out of your wheelhouse. I think you will get something from it. Also, since I haven't mentioned it earlier, I'm remembering it now. The score is excellent. The musical score, phenomenal. It matches the cinematography, the colors, the mood, everything. On a technical level, this is a masterfully made film. Probably Eggers' best since The Lighthouse, although I think The Lighthouse, again, is a very different style than this. So yeah, I'm probably gonna buy some tickets here in a minute and go see it again tonight after I'm done editing this video. Thank you so much for watching this. I hope that you were able to get something out of it. I'm sorry if it was a bit unorganized. I'm not working off of a script. I'm just thinking out loud here. This lived up to everything that I hoped it would be. It is probably my second favorite film of the year. As for my favorite movie, well, I'm working on that video right now, so you'll have to wait. Of course, as always, I want to thank my patrons for your continued support for this channel. Shout out to Lapis Lazuli VA and Lizard Gang for your continued support as executive producer patrons. And let me know what you thought of the film down below if you've seen it already. Let me know what you think of the mustache. I'm part of Mustache Gang. This video was produced by Mustache Gang. Actually, right before I started filming this video, my friend Rain texted me and said, so the mustache was a choice. I know that's probably going to be a controversial part of the film, but I really like it. Sorry. Let me know if you're going to go see the movie, what you thought of it down below. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video, and I'm going to click this button right here on my desk and say goodbye as you stand up slowly. Goodbye. Bye. See you later. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.